So Kieron, just about to start the comics workshop on writing, which you very kindly agreed to do for us. We're really grateful. Thank you very much. Were these things available to you when you were up and coming as well?
No, it's just like half the reason why I did. I sort of like doing this kind of thing. I mean, part of it's just I come from this sort of critical background, therefore getting a chance to scratch for stuff is great. But like, no, it was all like woods and fields, and we had to basically like Warren Ellis would take us in, and he would like teach us to whittle, and then with our whittling sticks we made comics. It was a hell of a time. But it's like the weird thing is we had more resources then than like someone like Warren did. Like Warren. There weren't really books, there was like one book, which was Eisner's.
Yeah.
And when I was like learning to write comics circa 2000, there was a few.
Right.
I mean, obviously there was Understanding Comics. There was like a couple of really good books, like Writing on Comic Book Script Writing, which I picked over to death. But the internet existed. So like my primary way into writing comics was like Warren Ellis did a free, in his column called Coming Alone, he did a 3-part thing about writing comics, and that was still my kind of basic, here you put together comics. So like when I got to position, like when I was writing for Marvel, and like just as Wick did was about to kick off, I partly was thinking, what would I like to do for the person in my situation what was 15 years ago? As in what would like proto 22-year-old Kieron Gillen would like someone for me to do? And that led to Decompressed, which is like a podcast I ran for a while where I interview people about craft, very specific choices. So this kind of thing is an extension of that, really. That's a long answer for a very basic question.
No, that's great.
But yeah, it's like
I
there is a balance of like comics is this kind of pan-generational dissemination of lessons, as in kind of like a lot of us know where the bodies have been buried due to people in the next generation who've kind of like told us about it. And it's important to pass on that institutional knowledge, especially when it's basically a freelancer industry.
Sure. What is it you're most hoping to kind of instill in the sort of next generation of writers that are coming?
Obedience. It's like fealty. You know, these are kind of like an unpayable debt, which is the good thing. It's kind of come back to like what I was just saying then in terms of like the institutional knowledge of some stuff.
Yeah.
And like there's a level of kind of like anti-fealty, as in pretty much the first thing I'm going to say on stage is like beware anyone giving you advice. Like why are they giving you advice? Always like unpick all the information essentially in your head as a creative, and then we kind of build from there. So there's a lot of radical cynicism, especially what I'm kind of hoping to do if it doesn't go completely and utterly wrong is something quasi-improvisational and quite weird. So like, and it's meant to like mirror how comics are made. Okay. So that may just go completely wrong, and I'll go back to just basically cribbing what went from like 15 years ago.
Well, this sounds fascinating. I'm glad I'm going to be here to see it.
Memorable experience.
Is there something you wish you'd known back then that you don't now?
I did like a workshop recently, like a kind of like masterclass, which is a phrase that makes me shudder. But like, it was 6 hours long. Like, I mean, at least 6 hours long. And it was done with like me with 4 pages of notes and just talking for that amount of time with a kind of I was sort of sounding being interviewed, but it was mainly just me talking.
Right.
And I did that with and I could have carried on. I mean, apart from my physical exhaustion, I could have carried on. So the amount of stuff that I know now that I did not know then cannot be possibly condensed down. So yes, there's infinite amounts. But the kind of, and this is the other thing I'm going to sort of open with, is the difficulty of advice is there is advice that you're incapable of processing until it is your time to get it. I mean, the thing when you get like an advice book for writing, you can read it and you go, oh no, I understand that. Then you look at your work and you think, oh no, I'm doing that, that's fine. You're not doing that. You've just basically, you've retroactively made it think that you were doing the thing that the book says. Because you're not really, what you're actually looking for is permissions, like an approval. You're looking for this kind of like, I'm on the road. You know, unless you can really see your problems, you can't really take the advice. So you've got to even learn to the point where you're able to learn some advice is difficult. Like, you can tell someone, and then eventually, there's so many different things I've been told, and then at some point, like years and years down the line, I get, as an, oh right, yeah, I knew that, but now I understand it.
Do you think it's important for writers, especially new writers, to kind of disregard rules in a way, or is it better to kind of be more schooled and...
This is like, comic writing is such an enormous, comic writing is just an enormous discipline. And it's something like writing, full stop, is an enormous discipline. What we call writing is about at least a couple of dozen skill sets that intersect, and we call all these skills writing. And some can be a good writer in many ways and terrible in others. It's like playing Football Manager. Like some people are goalies, and like you're not going to. If you put them up front, they're not going to score goals because they're a goalie. That's what they're good at, and that's okay because they're a goalie. Why would you go for object? So there's a lot about that. Most of what I try to do is not give rules, but useful questions for you to ask. Try to basically hear a useful contextual questions to ask about any situation you find yourself, and work out how that applies to your own goals. I'm very, very not into teaching people to write comics the Kieron Gillen way, because no one should do that, not even Kieron Gillen. But, you know, like there's a lot about like what I try to do is, okay, this is stuff I've learned, this is why I learned it, this is why I didn't know it. However, these are like, I miss a lot of this being best from reading the room, as in what people's aims and goals are. But like, if I'm speaking to people who are more like looking to work in, wanting to work in like the mainstream comic industry, that's kind of like, okay, here's my career management goals. Like, I mean, who do you want to? I mean, one of the first things I ask is, okay, who's everyone's favourite writer? Who do you want to be? Like, obviously the answer is you should. You know, if you're smart, you'll say, I want to be me. But really, let's separate that piece of false modesty. Who would you want to be? And that you end up unpacking that. Okay, how would you become Brian K. Vaughan? Like, if you wanted to be somebody working in a similar space, as in somebody who worked for hire for a while, but is primarily known for his own long-form creative work. How can I get into a place to write long-form creative work? Ideally, not like Brian's, but that's the kind of thing I want to do. So, like that, you know what I mean? As in, I don't think I'll be talking about any of that because I think this is much more like the pure how a comic works stuff. So, like, almost any time I speak to anyone, for me, it's like, what do you want? And then me trying to go, okay, this is how reasons you might be able to achieve that. So it's like if somebody who's working in a very cartoony style, like Liz Lilly I love, but if Liz Lilly came to me and said, I want to write the Ultimates, so I want to draw the Ultimates, it would be like, well, I think you probably have to change your style of art, but you know, but of course, to do that job, but if you could completely redefine what the Ultimates is and turn it into this awesome gag strip about bunnies, like maybe I would watch that. You know what I mean? There's a bit like, what is the hard limitations to what task you've got? So I like trying to be egoless in the advice I give. I will fail badly.
And lastly, I mean, I assume that tonight you're going to be talking about process a little, or quite a lot, I hope. Are you aware of your own process as you're doing it, or is it something that subconsciously you become aware of much later on?
I mean, my process, I'm more There's a bit like, there's a metabolising process in terms of, that's why I'm writing to form. This is something I suspect I'll talk about, is the idea that the 20-page American comic book format is a form. And I now can write to that form quite reliably. In that kind of, I don't need to do much writing. If I can start writing scenes randomly, I kind of know roughly I know by heart how much information is into 20 pages. So there's a lot, so there comes a point where it becomes much more instinctive. But when I started, no, it's like kind of like, you draw graphs and like, I remember like Uber issue 0, I covered my fridge in post-it notes to have like there were 5 different tracks of the story, and so it's like, that's kind of a TV plotting thing, and that was a device that allowed me to visualise the story, and like, I can, most of my most complicated stories I can do in my head, or like, you can tell when I'm really pushing it, because then the notepad comes out again. But you know, as in there's a lot, as you get better, you perhaps need less.
Yes.
But you can certainly talk about, I can talk about my process. I'm not an instinctive creator in that area. I'm somebody who can write essays about my work and regularly do. And that's because, that's it, I come back to the critic thing. And that kind of, I'm quite, the critic part of me and the creative part of me are quite separate in some ways. The creative part of me has an extremely passionate idea how art should be. And the critic part kind of despises that. And I think the critic, for me, has a, my idea of Chris has an idea of almost egoless self-flagellation in terms of like, okay, what's this all trying to do? Let's work out what's going on here. What interesting thing can I draw from it? Even if it's not I hate, what's this telling us about the world? What's me as a creator is the opposite. The creator wants to start fights. In that kind of, no, like this. Because it's, you know, almost translates from both your own personal works to like when you're doing the work for hire. I always say this, anytime I'm writing a superhero comic, no matter who it is, I've got to write it like the most important person in the world. You know, like Batroc doesn't care. Like, you know, Batroc is the lead character. Batroc is the most important person in the world because that's what Batroc clearly believes. And that's, you know, you've got to level of commitment to it. I mean, it seems like, you know, that. So, all of that. That faded off.
I think you've given us the best, most in-depth answers we could have possibly hoped for to those questions. Thank you so much. We're really looking forward to the class tonight.
Me too. Hopefully it's not incredibly embarrassing for everyone.
No, I don't think it will be. Thanks, Kieron.